craft the business from Kenya last year has, and also last year when the capping came into place, it has affected us a bit in the country, but outside the country, because we serve a lot of countries outside Kenya. So, that has not been affected. But on the flip side, when the rate cap came in, the other side of our business has seen some growth, especially on the transactional revenue, because I think banks have now, some of the banks have really started focusing on transactional revenue than the interest income. And that is where Craft has products for interest on this side, while transactions on the other side. So, when this one came down a bit, we saw a growth coming in on this side, which had really balanced up. And so, we are in a very unique and an interesting position where as much as affected on one side, but on the other side we were actually not making some gains. If you look at it broadly, blockchain is a technology that allows you to, it is like a public ledger. For a layman, it is very difficult to understand what blockchain is, but if I explain them, it is like your information is stored in more than one place. So, it becomes very difficult to make a change. Today, if my balance is stored in a bank and bank decides to just go into the database and change my balance, it is changed. But with a blockchain technology, a copy of my information is stored in more than one computer, in actually millions of computers. So, if something has to be changed, either for some malicious reasons, it needs to be changed across all the computers, which is very difficult, and that makes blockchain technology very secure. So, with that concept, we are trying to currently work on about 2 products. One is on how we can use this technology for lending, and the other one is storing the lending documents. Like today, my documents, I could go to some ministry, my land title deed is like changed or is disappeared, but in a case like this, that cannot happen. So, we are focusing on these 2 products. It is still slightly new, we are still a bit far away. Hopefully, by towards the last quarter of this year, we would have a product that would run on blockchain. I think the reason why you see a lot of seashore going around is people have really not understood the concept of cryptocurrency. And that is where if somebody tells me it is good, I would just go and invest in there. Somebody would say it is not performing or bad, I would withdraw back from that. So, the market knowledge of cryptocurrency, I think still is lacking, and that is, I think, is one of the reason why you see this lot of ups and downs. But broadly, I think for the sake of the audience, the cryptocurrency is based on blockchain technology, which I explained you now, and that makes it very secure. That makes it literally very difficult for somebody to commit frauds around there, and that is the strongest point of cryptocurrency. So, today we have these challenges of an up and down, but I think at some point things would dust will settle down, things would settle in, then you would see the right value and the benefit of a cryptocurrency. But it has to come, I think. Yeah. And I am quite happy, even the Kenyan government, as much as central bank initially were opposed to that, IT ministry has now formed a committee that is looking into cryptocurrency and these technologies. So, it is going to help the country. Very big role, very big role, because AI is basically anything that's pretty standard to do, anything that can be done using certain figures, I think AI will take over. So, things like we use AI, I mean Kenya has been using AI for quite some time, it is just that the AI is a fancy name that came out. But for example, when Safaricom started giving out loans for airtime lending, people used to do airtime, borrowing of airtime. That was based on the patterns on how the customer was using the airtime in the past, the history. So, that is broadly what AI used to be, but now it is increasing, it is improving, and I think banks would really be able to make very good decision based on the AI engines, both for lending, for deposits, for what the customer plans to do in the near future. And if I can predict what this customer's next move is going to be, me as a bank, I could provide a product to him that could really fit him in his growth plan. So it's all about understanding the customers, understanding the customer's behavior, and then coming up with something that customer really wants. And even before he asks for it, if you provide it to that, that's the impact that's going to have. All the banks have really embraced the technology. I think where the problem is the allocation of funds in terms of growth of technology, because there are still some banks, they would invest in tangible assets than on intangible assets. So if you go in and says invest this on your technology, they would rather invest that amount with existing technology, invest in somewhere else. So that's still a challenge, not with all the banks, but some of the banks are still catching up. But they are also understanding that once you have good technology, the long term results are much better. So it's a mix of both. When it comes to co-banking products, I think the sales have increased, the number of customers have increased. Couple of customers on the other platform are also now moving to us, which is good for us. So that's where we are doing good. But more interestingly, where we are doing good, better than good, is on the channels. Customers are my revenues on transactional revenues are increasing. And just to give you a snapshot, last year we processed over 5.5 billion US dollar on the platform, which in my view it's a very large number, yeah, compared to the banks what they other do. So if you rate us among the people who are processing electronic transactions in this country, we might be the second biggest. Obviously Safaricom M-Pesa processes the largest number of transactions in this country, followed by them, possibly could be us. But for us, it was not 5.5 billion shilling, it was 5.5 billion US dollars. So it's a large amount. For a company of our size, it's definitely a large amount. So for us, I think the growth of Craft Silicon is we believe that it's going to come from the channels. And that's where our teams are more focusing on channels. The new technologies that are coming in all falls under channel, and our focus is there. And in 3 to 5 years down the line, we would definitely be growing much bigger, will be much bigger than what we are at the moment, but the revenues would still come in from the new products. We have 1 or 2 companies. I mean, unfortunately Kenya has many small companies, but then those smaller companies have not been able to grow into the bigger companies. Very few have come out, and I am not sure what the exact reason could be. Is it just that some of these companies are thinking too short terms, or maybe they are not getting the right resources? We don't know. But there are some very good fintech companies in our country, and the good thing about the companies in Kenya is Kenyan companies are respected across the continent. So if a Kenyan fintech goes to West Africa, for example, they would get a very good chance to get into something good.